Good morning. All right, we're going to continue working on this project. I was working yesterday to reposition my camera. It was the only time I had to work with it, so... Sorry. So, got that repositioned. Hope this setup is a little bit more comfortable. Also readjusted my mic. So we'll see how this goes. So here's our two mermaids here. We did the first layer in ink, water-based ink. And next we're going to use watercolor pencils. Excuse me. I knew what I was thinking. I just couldn't say it. So we're going to use watercolor pencils to kind of add some definition on these characters here. So one thing I don't have with this kit is color swatches. So I have to get a piece of paper here and get some color swatches going on. And so we're going to use a water brush to blend the color. So I was thinking we can start with their skin tones here. The boy is supposed to be darker than the girl, or is intentional to be darker than the girl. So we'll see how this works out here. So let me just do a couple of color swatches over here on this piece of paper. It's a nice dark brown here. This one's obviously got a sharper tip to it than the other brown. A little bit different. More of a cooler brown there. But here's how these work. Just get them wet and you can fade the color out. This is just basic paper. It's not watercolor paper, so it's not going to give a well enough effect. But this is kind of give me my color swatching here. I could grab some watercolor paper. This looks way too red. I don't think I'll use this one. I could use it for the blush. Oh, I need my paper towel. A little bit late here today, but my blot. Okay. So, we're going to work on the skin tones today. Add some definition. Let's play with this one a little bit here. That one's not so red. Put this one back here. That one looks more like that. We're getting closer. Sorry, my hair is wet and it's dripping everywhere. I should have just grabbed a towel. Trying to keep these in order where I'm taking them out of the box. Because these ones, I don't... Yeah, they do have numbers on them. That's kind of more of an orangey. I like that one better. These ones would be good for either his hair or his darker areas on his body. Just gonna play with this one for a second here. That would work good for her hair. But I won't worry about that one. On another one. Okay, so for a second, I want to put away. So cross that guy out. Oh, not that one. No, it's Tuesday. Case of the Mondays on Tuesday. That one's not terrible. That one I think looks a little bit better. And definitely not that one. Okay. So I think we have our colors we're looking for. So we're going to go in and just kind of create some shadows and stuff. I'm not worried about those hearts. Just kind of been coloring over the top of them. Once I get his skin tone the way I like it, see if I can get you guys a little bit closer here. And work on that focus. There we go. All right. So, so there's a few lines. And then we would come in with our water brush, clean that off, and blend this out a bit. The nice thing about working over the top of ink is it doesn't reactivate, and that's why I wanted to go with the ink in the first place. We can kind of feather it out a little bit. Blend it in there. And we can go back over it again with the same color. Kind of add a little bit more depth and darkness to it. This just kind of helps just bring it out there. Now, watercolors always dry lighter. Some of these hard lines here. So when you're putting watercolor on, expect them to be dark and darker than what you want. And then as they dry, they lighten up. So as you can see, his torso has much more definition to it than what it originally has. It has a highlight and low lights on there, so good stuff there. I kind of wet this down a little bit. Dry my brush off a little bit. Seems pretty wet. There we go. I'm gonna let that dry for a minute, and then I'm gonna come in here and do a little bit on his face. Got the hairline. His hair is gonna end up darker. terribly worried about it right now. Gonna wet that up down here now. Sometimes my brush just, this water brush here is Faber-Castell water brush here. It's a love-hate relationship. It works great most of the time. Sometimes it simply just lays down way too much water on there. Come in with a cheap dry brush, kind of mop some of this up here a little bit. Get some of that water off of there. Let that dry a little bit. And then we're going to go back into the body and add more dark. Could go in a little bit with this darker brown, which is the first one that I did. This paper is still a little bit wet. I don't have a fan going right now. That usually kind of helps things dry off a little bit faster. I'll come back in with the brush and blend that out a little bit. But sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing to still have a paper a little bit damp. That definitely shows some muscle tone on that one. Alright, let's come back in over here a little bit. Deepen this side up. And I'll come in with, with the lighter tan or lighter brown again. Doesn't look like I'm laying much down, and sometimes it's just better to do a little bit at a time. I gotta bring this in a little bit. A lot of folks say watercolor is an uncontrollable medium. To some degree, yes. Absolutely true. Watercolor can get out of control quite easily. And that may not be a bad thing for you, depending on which look you're looking for, what the outcome is. I can even go in here with the brush and pick up some pigment from my pencil here. Just trying to add a little bit more shading and definition here. A little bit off of this one, the darker brown. Come in here with the hair a little bit. It is pooling a little bit in a few spots under the hairline now. I don't know if you can really tell. Clean that off, and I'm going to come in with my dry brush. Kind of blot up some of that extra water a little bit. I am liking his body, looking really good there. So let me go in with the arms a little bit. Pick up some paint off of here. Come in with his arms. This has had a little bit more time to dry. And I'm going to use this other one to kind of bring that tone to a little bit more of a reddish brown instead of a bluer brown, a cooler brown. A little bit more down here in his elbow. Drag that around a little bit. Gonna make it fade. Gonna let that pigment kind of settle for a bit on his elbow. Shading a bit here. Just pull out my water brush once in a while, take some of that excess pigment off. And kind of blend it out a little bit. And there's not a lot of hard lines. You probably can't really see it too much, but there are a few hard lines in here that the camera doesn't really pick it up very well. But doesn't look horrible. Not like some other hard lines that you see throughout this piece here. Let's see. Hard lines right in here. Some down here, but I mean, that's intentional. But in the middle of his body, there's a little bit of a hard line right there, but actually does not look too bad. Could blend it out a smidge. Just very light tap, 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 tap. Blend that out. All right, there's our boy's body there. So let me put Cat back on my water brush for now, and let's see if we can work on his hair a little bit. Add some nice long streaks in here with this darker brown. And then I can come in with the lighter brown too. Just change up the dynamic of it a little bit. And then this other brown. Now I could essentially just leave it like that. That actually looks pretty good. But it's like taking your artwork halfway there. You can go further with it if you just keep playing with it. So let's grab that water brush again. I'm going to try not to add too much water. Try to keep the water level as low as possible, just to keep some of that definition in there, but to also smooth it out a bit. Hair is definitely not smooth, one even color. Has lots of highs and lows to it, depending on how the light catches. Work some of these lines a little bit here. Come back in with my dry brush. Pick up some of that extra water that comes in. A few hard lines developing on some of these spots, but not too bad. But you can definitely have a lot more control with watercolor pencils and with a water brush than you could just with regular watercolor. At least I do. I have a lot more control with going in with a watercolor brush and watercolors and adding some definition. So, it's pretty good there. Obviously, oh, we missed his complete other arm over there. That would be darker too. Hers would also be kind of dark. But let's come in here with this. Brown. Then the water brush. Moving that pigment around a little bit. And there you have it. For her, you know, I was actually kind of thinking maybe we can come in with that yellow that we had earlier. That was not going to work for the boy's body. She's going to be more pale. I want her to stand out a little bit compared to him. So just come in with this watercolor pencil. This one's Faber-Castell 483. And we can come back in with that light brown that we were using on the boy before. So she doesn't look like she's got jaundice or anything. But I don't think that'll be the case anyways. Just because she's already got a base tone, earth tone on her. I'm just going to do this whole section the same color. And we'll add that brown in there a little bit. Wow, my phone's going off the chain today. Almost looks like she's got a little bit of pink in her right there from the background. Okay, so we're gonna go in with that brown, tone her back up again. Yellow will essentially lighten up this brown a bit. Whoop. So she definitely stands out a little bit more from him. I'm gonna just pick up some brown off and lighter brown pencil here and come in with this shadow area. Touch her up over here a little bit. That right there is not a hard line from the watercolor or the ink. It's like a hairline. You see these little wispy hairlines? Keep looking at it and I'm like, what's wrong with that? But nothing's wrong with it. It's part of the drawing. This will probably be a shorter stream today. I think we'll probably just get the skin tones on here right. I want this a little bit different. Blend that out a little bit. Take off some color and then kind of feather that out so her face looks like it's in highlight. These watercolor pencils, they do bleed out a little bit. Not as much as like that ink. We were messing around with it last week where it really just kind of bled out. It just bloomed all over the paper when it was wet. That was just satisfying to watch. Take off some of my color here. Their faces are kind of indescript. I mean, they have some features where the nose and mouth is at, but that's pretty much it. There's not much else for cheekbone structure, ear structure, or any of that going on here. Alright. Let's go in here. Darken this up here. A little bit more back in here. And down under here. See, the water brush naturally kind of fades the pigment because it's constantly adding water to the pigment, but the pigment's not constantly being reapplied. So it creates a kind of an easier, more natural fade or gradient. Here. Pigment there. Trying to put my hand in dry spots. It's kind of hard to find now where my hand is at. She looks better, but I think I'm going to darken his far arm a little bit more. I'm going to come back in with this richer brown. And this is kind of like the wet on dry technique. Okay, so that brought that further back. I'm gonna kind of do the same thing with her far arm there. This just looks too something. couldn't place what I was meaning on that. Too much of something. Not enough of something else. But it looks better now. Like it was too curvature. If that's such a thing. Alright, that definitely dropped her other arm back a little bit further. Add some up in here too. Push them back. So for the next project, I'm thinking of doing some digital art as a pre-design for a final watercolor project. Maybe I'll do not alcohol, but inks instead. I can do a couple of different inks. I could use the Derwent Inktense pencils on top of the ink for this. It's going to be a bigger project for sure. So we'll see how that goes. So it'd be oh, I was thinking like using an American flag and putting a picture over the top of it, or an object over it, kind of thing. So come up with some ideas, think what you might like in regards to it. Little vape break. Kind of play with the focus on this. See. Whoa, that's way too much. I am thinking I'm going to add a little bit more shadow under his face. Just along in here. I'm just taking this second brown that I had swatched earlier. Fade that out a little bit. Down around over here. Bit of a concentration of water right there. Every time I look at this, I think that right there is a nose, but it's definitely not that. Definitely go in there later. When I finish with the mermaids, then I'll work on the background, kind of messing around with that. We'll figure out what we'll do. Might do some water effects or something. See how that would work out. There's that red brown a little bit. I am going to, off camera, grab a little bit of that pigment on there. I'm going to add some of this to her cheeks. Right now that's way too dark, I get that, but blend that out a little bit here. Add some rosy cheeks, so to speak. Add a little bit more color in there. Now she's looking like she's blushing. Just a smidge, just a hint. So yeah, a lot you can do with watercolor brushes or pencils and stuff. Just add a little bit here and there. Coming back in with that darker brown on his fingers a little bit. Just trying to pick up a little bit of pigment and lay that down and add a bit more shadow. Really am trying not to do anything off camera as much as possible, just so you can see what I'm doing, where I'm getting my colors from. And add a little bit around the lips a little bit. Just a smidge. Add a little bit more definition down here. Much better. Sometimes you have to take a step back. It just looks like there's a white line essentially right there. Yeah, sometimes you just have to take a step back just a little bit. Take a look at your work and see, is there a spot that I could improve on a little bit? Is there something else that's missing in the area that I'm working in? Yep, that extra little bit helped out with the mouth. And not using much just really makes a big difference. And sometimes you have to use a lot more, but you don't have to, with moderation. But there we go. I know we just did his hair and the bodies of the two mermaids. Torso and face, arms, whatever. We'll work on her hair next time. And then maybe the tails, we'll see how that goes. I'll have to do some color swatching or whatever, see how that works out. So, yeah, about a 45-minute stream here, so not too bad. Still almost an hour, but still have to modify my desk a little bit more to my liking. But yeah, eventually, we'll have everything in a happy place. I think this works better. I like this camera angle coming in from this direction because I am a left-handed individual, so you can still see the tip of my pencil. Camera was more to the right, and so it was a little bit harder to see a few things. But I think this worked out pretty good, having the camera on the opposite side to see where I'm coming from. So, but I hope you enjoyed this little bit of work that we did today. Excuse me. We'll catch you in the next one and see if we can get her hair done and the tails done, and then we will tackle the background and the hearts. So, good times. Thanks for joining me, and you have yourself a great day and be safe.